right, July 8th, 3 p.m. Eastern. Today we're going to go over setting up some of the various different conditions that you were able to select from within the toolbar, all of the different areas and the market geometry, and then the different levels from the volume profile, the VWAP, the horizontal rays. So there's actually a new update to the toolbar that will be available, I think, tomorrow. Just a couple of minor fixes, nothing much that you would notice. It just has to do with some of the persistence settings, things like that. And then I should have the beta version of the 3.0 toolbar, which is going to be completely redesigned, rebuilt, much better, much faster. So I should have a working version of that next week, and then hopefully release it by the end of the month. So what I've done here, and this is just a test template, we'll go over it, and then once I build it out, I'll make it available for download. But what I'm looking at doing is programming out manually some of the things that I wanted to program out in the next version of the toolbar. So one of those main things is finding the bar that is touching, or at least within a tick or two, I think in this case up to 3 ticks, from the median line and the auto line, the channel line. All right, because up here at these highs, excuse me, and this is where I exited one of the contracts that I bought here, and then for some reason I was thinking this was going to go to the moon, but it just didn't, and then got out of the last one right here. But at this area, this bar right here, this was actually a perfect short setup. We had multiple areas coming together, and some of us, excuse me, some of us in the room were looking for this thing to come up in another wave from, say, a small retracement up to the next major area, which would have been, excuse me, would have been up about right here, just over 46, I think it was 46.11 or 12 or something like that. So that's what I was waiting on. Some of the other people in the room were waiting on that as well. And then it broke down, pulled back to the midline of that channel, and then just rolled right over. So that never happened, but we had plenty of areas coming together at this high. And that's what we're going to look at. So to go through some of the different areas that we had, and I don't have all of them marked out by any means, but we have, just using the most recent major swing lows, and that's really what you're looking at using for market geometry, or the major swing highs and lows on the chart that you're looking at. And in this case, on the 1 minute, if we're right here in time and price. And that was another thing that kind of threw me off with this, is the extreme momentum we had up into that high. But see, that's typical of a C wave high. We know that you typically get a V top or a V bottom. So I exited on that 5th wave there, and it just barely met the requirements of the 5th wave. So typically the 5th and the 1st are going to be equal, and it was not quite equal, you see. But it did make it to the top of the channel, and I want to say that was a weak buying climax. So this was a very strong buying climax, followed by a churn bar. Of course, some of you don't know what I'm talking about because you don't own the volume tools. Typically on Friday, we're focusing strictly on the toolbar. But then everyone else that owns the toolbar, that also owns the rest of the indicators, are joining in as well. And you guys that are in the room know that we had a buying climax followed by a churn bar, and then I believe this was a weak churn bar. Sorry, a weak buying climax here. So we met that last little set of 5 waves at the high there, but at this first high is where we had all of the areas coming together. So one of the things that we're programming out is where the 2 warning lines intersect. Now in the current version, we're not differentiating between the warning lines of the trend channel and the warning lines of the median lines. I may have him make that change before I send out the update. We're simply looking at just one data series for the warning lines. Then all was it 1, 2, 3, 4 warning lines above and 4 warning lines below. So this first warning line here is a mirror of the center median line. So that's the center median line. That's the lower median line right here. This is the upper median line. So that's the first warning line up above the upper median line. And that's simply mirroring that center median line. So if this is 50%, whoops. If this is 50% of the width of the median lines, then that's 50% added to the top. And that's the first warning line of the median line. And then if this is 50% of the width of the channel, from that blue auto line down to the center line, if you can see it, you can barely see it there. Right here, let me see if I can make it blue or cyan right there. Then that is the 50% added to the top of the channel right there. So both of those warning lines coming together with time and price is one particular signal that we're programming out, right? So what is the other main, one of the most important signals in the market geometry? It's this bar right here. Is where time and price meets the median line and the upper channel line. So I've programmed that one out right here. And it's actually the same exact bar. So we have both warning lines coming together on the 1 minute. We have the median line coming together with the auto line with time and price on the 789 tick chart. And then we have multiple other areas that we'll get into in a minute. So if I disconnect, we get no signals. Right, when I connect the center median line here from the 789, that's the only bar that's touching it. Actually, we have a bar back here, which is touching it as well. Oh, no, sorry, it can't. That's another thing with this. You're not going to get the signals until after the end bar. So when we're drawing that pattern, let's refresh that. When we're drawing that pattern, you can't possibly get signals until the last bar of that pattern. So you're not getting signals until the second bar to the right. So obviously, because we're touching the median line here, none of this counts because none of this is actual, it's all hindsight, right? So only thing we're looking for is what happens after the pattern is drawn. So then when we refresh the chart, the only thing that we're seeing is the exact bar that's touching that median line. And then of course, I open this up and then we look down one solver here, we're looking at the auto line, which is that channel line, which is here. So again, with the reader, for those of you that haven't seen any of these training sessions, the reader within BloodHound gives us access to all of these lines, all the values of all these lines. We're using a tagging system, and we're registering, we are registering for each line the value for every single bar, the value of every single line for every single bar, and then giving a value of 1 for that bar that's touching one of the lines. So we select the chart that we want to read from. It'll find every chart on the workspace or every chart on the entire NinjaTrader environment. So we'll say workspace only, and then that's 789 tick. And then we can choose what we want to read. We can read the horizontal line, all of the market geometry lines, just the baseline, just the auto line, all of the pitchforks or individual pitchforks, and then all of the warning lines. I'm going to differentiate to make each individual warning line separate, or at least the trend channel warning lines from the median warning lines. And then the moving VWAP, which is that VW button, the standard deviations of that volume weighted moving average, the VPOC of the profile, upper and lower value area, the volume cluster high, the volume cluster low, the low volume node, and the VWAP, and then all of those same areas for the profile for the updating profile. So we're differentiating between the static profiles and the updating profiles. All right, so now I have selected the auto line, and I'm going to give a value of 1 for the bar that is within 3 ticks or touching that auto line. And we're using the bars of the base chart, so from the 1 minute, and it will update every 1 minute. I can even run it, calculate on bar close false, so that it will give us the signal right when it touches the line. And that's it. We hit OK. So now when I connect that one, it's actually the same exact bar. You see. Excuse me. So if I disconnect it, we get no signal. If I connect the median line, we get the signal on that bar, which corresponds to this bar. Right? This bar is this bar. Right there. And then the same thing for the auto line. So when I connect both of these together, they both must be true. And that's going to give me a signal out of BloodHound whenever we have both of those coming together. Clint's telling me I sound rough. You look rough. Thanks. So what else do we have? Do we have any areas from any of the other charts? Well, yeah, we actually do. We can also connect the warning lines from the 1 minute. And that's all coming together at the same time and price. Do we have anything on the 20 minute? Yeah, we sure do. We have the median line, and we have the VWAP of an updating profile. So if I want to bring this 1 minute chart down here, and let's look at the 20 minute chart. Oh, let's just do this. So I've got the 20 minute all market geometry lines programmed in here. You see it's giving me signals from every single bar that's touching any one of these lines. So if I want to differentiate, let's say I want to use the 20 minute chart, but I just want to use the center median line, I can copy that, open this up, set it to, rather than all market geometry lines, set it to pitchfork center. 4, yeah, that's fine. Okay, and then we'll say center median line, CM, and then test this one out. And there we go. So now we've got 2 bars there, 2 20-minute bars that are touching that upper median line. While it is using, let's open this up again. My throat is giving me some trouble today, actually. Something wrong with my air conditioner in the house. We're using the bars from the base chart from that 1 minute. If I say let's use the bars from the read chart from the 20-minute, it's going to show us the entire length of that 20-minute bar as touching that center median line. And see, that's no good. So that's one awesome thing about this reader, is that we can access the values from all of the other charts, which is something that's pretty cool about Ninja. It allows you to communicate between the charts. Just kind of a neat little aspect of the framework, but we're able to read the areas from the charts, but read the bars from the actual chart that we have BloodHound on, so that will isolate only those 1 minute bars that are actually touching that center median line. So we want to open that up and tell BloodHound to read only from the base chart, which is the chart we have BloodHound on, which is the 1 minute chart. Does everybody understand that? They would have to start vacuuming as we're, yeah, please. Find out why they're cleaning every single day of the week here in the middle of the day. Unbelievable. Same time every single day. They clean and mop the whole entire building. Anyway, terribly distracting here. So that's the second 20-minute bar that is touching that center median line there. You see that? So rather than giving us the entire bar for the 20-minute chart that's touching that area, as it would if we couldn't differentiate between the base chart and the read chart, we're able to fine tune the bars that are touching that. That's one good thing that we're able to do with this. So now we've identified the other area from the 20-minute chart. What about the VWAPs, or the VWAP from the updating profile here? Because that's a perfect retracement to the volume weighted average price right there. It's actually the value area high as well, isn't it? Yeah, it is. Let's see if it was the value area high at the time of, let me just test something real quick. No, not at the time up, but it was the VWAP at that time. So let's make it an updating profile. There we go. And we'll copy that 20-minute solver again. $20-minute updating VWAP. And then we'll open this thing up. and change it to look at the updating VWAP, which is right here. We're reading, rather than all of the market geometry lines, we're reading the updating VWAP right there. And I think we may need a few ticks. Let's see. Threshold. Looks like it was at 46. The high of the bar is 96. So 4 ticks or 5 ticks. Let's see. There we go. Yeah, so it's identifying all of those bars as being within several ticks. Let me see what we actually use there. Full bar of the base chart from the 20-minute. Yeah. Okay, cool. And let's see. What else do we have? Let's go ahead and tie that one in. Hang on a second here. Looks like it's not reading one of the bars actually. I want to extend that signal forward by 1 bar. See what we can do here? You can actually, when you get a signal on a bar, you can hook it into the look back and extend that signal forward by a couple of bars. Let's just say 2 bars. And you set it to maximum, and it will then extend that signal forward a couple of bars. You see that? So let's hook that up. So now we have all of these areas in agreement. Right there. Okay, cool. So what else do we have? Let's see if we have another area on the 20-minute chart. I believe we had, what was it? It couldn't have been an upper median line from here. No, it was the center median line there. Yeah. Let's do this. I can't wait for that next version. I'll be able to select the lowest closing price rather than the extreme there. Because if I select the lowest closing price, which would have been right there, then we have a much better hit of that low really to the tick. And here it only comes through by the wicks on the 20-minute. It gave us the high here as well. But anyway, that's kind of too much of an overthrow there, so we won't even use that area. Just trying to see what else it may have been. The midline there as well. I'd say that's plenty of areas. As far as a retracement is concerned, and that we're going to have this in the next version as well. All of these will be accessible. Not even a 38.2 retracement. That was one of the issues that I was having with shorting it there as well. Not much of a retracement, but then again, this was an incredibly large down move. So anyway, do we have anything else on the 5-minute? Using some different swing points. Well, let's see if we have. another area. Here we're pretty close to that median line. Depending on, let me draw it a different way. No. Let me draw from here. Yeah, see, we could use the highest closing price using this swing high, eliminating that wick. We could use the highest, well, the highest 5-minute closing bar. And that gives us the low here perfectly. I think it's about half a tick off of that channel line. And then it gives us the highs of these 3 bars right here as well. That's another good example of market geometry. That's pretty perfect, actually. And we come right down to the warning line of the channel. So yeah, that's a pretty good one. Perfect. Okay, so what else do we have? Let's use these 2 swing points. And we have the median line there as well. I believe on the 1 minute we used these 2 swing points. Yeah, we did. That's for those 2 warning lines that you see up top there. So this is what I mean about an area of confluence where you have multiple areas coming together across multiple time frames. Craig is asking, is there any way we in HipChat, if they address the questions to everyone in Zoom, you can see them in Zoom, but not in HipChat. No, they're not in HipChat. You have to be a member of the trading room to be in HipChat. No, the slope is not available. Not until the next version. Here, hang on a second. Mike just posted something here. Is that the high in Amazon? Nice little 3 swings ending on an extreme churn bar. Yeah, it's probably a high for sure. Nice. It's options time. Okay, so we've got multiple areas. I think that's plenty good enough. Of course, we could use, no, if I use this one, we're going to be using the extreme high there. So this is plenty. All right, so we'll differentiate these lines to line up exactly the way that we want it. So this is one of the things we're going to be doing, is identifying the major combinations of areas that are typical from one chart, from one series of charts. You know, as if we're looking for the upper channel line on the 20-minute. For the short on the correction, and then let's say a baseline from high to high on the 5-minute, and then you know, a center median line with the auto line on the tick chart. All of these different combinations that we may be looking for, we'll have specific signals for, and then we'll be able to get closer to automation. It's still going to be discretionary based on the areas that you're drawing in across the different time frames, but you can get closer and closer to full automation this way. course, like I said, it'll never be full because you still have to draw everything in manually. And of course, you want to do that. If you do it automatically, there's always going to be some instances where you wouldn't have drawn the channel that it's finding automatically. Of course, until we can get to the point to where we can kind of do that fuzzy logic type stuff. But yeah, that's for another day. So let's identify the areas on the 5-minute. We'll copy the solver that we have for the 5-minute. Just copy it. And then rather than all lines, I'm going to say baseline. I just want the baseline. That's that dark blue line. That's the main trend line that we draw in. And then I'll select that read from the 5-minute baseline right there. And we'll say we only want to allow 2 ticks on the 5-minute chart. And then I come back to the logic board. I simply right-click on the chart, go to existing solvers, and 5-minute baseline right there. And there we go. So those are the bars that are touching the baseline. You see those 3 5-minute bars? Those are corresponding to these bars here. Right there. So now let's copy another one. And this time we'll select the median line. Which is pitchfork center. And we'll say 2 ticks is plenty. This may be a problem with the threshold because we've come through that by about 6 ticks. So we'll try 2 and see what it looks like. So we come back to the logic board, right click, existing solvers, 5-minute median line. And then connect that to the result. And there we go. So yeah, it's still identifying those bars because the bars themselves are, how large are they? About 86 to about, each one of those bars is about 10 ticks wide. So that's working out beautifully. Excuse me. Okay, so here we go. We're going to connect these together as well. And then there we go. Right there. Gordon is asking, what is the basis for the entry in CL today? The entry that I had in crude oil was last night at the close, actually. It's right at the close and then just shortly thereafter. And then I held it overnight. So I exited up top here because we were coming into all of these different areas. We didn't actually take this short because I was trading long into it, actually. But clearly you can see we've got an impulsive move down, very, very strong, and then a nice A, B, C back up. It's really double 3 as we've got however you want to count this. I don't even know. However you want to make sense of that one, but you've got a clear A, B, C down, and then another very clear A, B, C back up. So that's a double 3, and it's much more expansive. It's much more complex and extended of a correction than the impulse move down was. So it's either got to correct in time and price, which would bring it back to about 50%, but rather quickly or within the same amount of time as we've come down, or just time, which would be long and drawn out but not come back as far, or just price, which would bring it all the way back to the 78.6 very quickly. So that's how corrections work. They either correct equally in both time and price, or it takes longer in time but doesn't come back as far in price, where it takes a very brief amount of time but comes way back to like 78.6. Oftentimes, crude oil retracements will be very quick in time but come all the way back 78.6. That makes any sense to you? And then, of course, we came right back to the VWAP, the volume weighted average price of the profile, right back to it right there, and to the center median line here. So it didn't quite make it to the top of the channel, but it did make it to the median line. So it's looking rather weak from a reversal that doesn't make it all the way back to the top of the channel. And then when it fell apart, it came crashing down pretty quickly. And once we broke that low, we immediately rejected and came back up. So if this is not a major low, then this is likely the corrective high, and we're going to come on down. But I was kind of thinking that this could very well be a very major corrective low, and we shouldn't come back below the 78.6 here, which is really not that far away. And we should be looking for a long setup this afternoon or this early in the morning. So right at the close, that's kind of odd. It just went straight up and straight down, shaking everybody out. So from 45.62, it's pretty crazy. We're for a 55 tick move. All right, so plenty of reasons for a short here. Everything's lining up. You've got multiple areas on the 5-minute chart, multiple areas on the 20, including the VWAP and the median line. And then back to, well, let's just keep it on this screen for now, back to the 789 tick, the intersection of the median line and the channel, both right on that bar. So everything coming together right there. See how that works? So we could also draw in, let's say, our VWAP, moving VWAP from the, I'm sorry, that's the S. What do I have here? Right here. The moving VWAP from this low, and then identify the upper standard deviation band. We could even actually draw it from way back. I don't know if, I think we'll probably be out of the standard deviation bands if we draw from here. Let's see. No, we're still well within them. So you see how we use that as support here? This kind of acts like a value area. And when you get up into the cloud, up into this purple cloud, it tends to act as resistance because we're moving so far away out of the mean. The mean would be this VWAP, the center line. And the value area would be the first standard deviation above the top of that light cyan cloud, and the value area low, the bottom of that light cyan cloud. That would be the first standard deviation above and below, which would act as your kind of value area, if you will. And here we came back to it again one more time. Let me blow that up. So I'll delete this one so you can see it well enough. So we came back to the value area low here, value area low there, and then right up to the third standard deviation. So we can also access these standard deviations. So if I open that template up, and this is the 1 minute chart, so I'll copy the 1 minute and we'll name it moving VWAP standard deviation lines. We'll say anything above second standard deviation. This is where it gets a little bit different from within the data series. So the value of those bars for the moving VWAP standard deviation, the VWAP standard deviations here. Yep. The values that the bars are set to are going to be -1 for the upper, -2 for the second standard deviation upper, and then -3 for the third standard deviation upper. So if a bar is touching the first standard deviation, the second, or the third, it's going to be respectively -1, -2, or -3. If it's touching the actual center median line, you use the other data series, which is just this, the VWAP moving, as it's called, VWAP moving right here. I'll probably rename these to make them more intuitive. All right, so that means I need to set these thresholds a little differently. We'll say -3. Let's do -2 so that we can incorporate both -2 and -3 in the same output within BloodHound. I'll explain that in a minute. So -1, 0, 1, 2. Within BloodHound, you want the thresholds descending from A to E. So 2, 1, 0, -1, and then -2 for E. So always descending. So for long, we want 2 or greater. For short, we want -2 or less. So -2 or -3. So if a bar is touching that upper second standard deviation or upper third, we'll get a short output out of BloodHound. So I right click in the logic board, existing 1 minute moving VWAP, and there we go. So now I'm getting short output from every bar that is touching or within a couple of ticks of that upper cloud. And if it's near the lower cloud, which it is here, we'll get long output. I've set both the long and the short output to yellow in this template simply because we're not looking for long or short signals. We're just looking for give me a signal when everything's come together, and then I'll decide whether I want to go long or short. So Jeffrey is asking, when you add multiple BloodHound signals, does it tend to slow down the CPU? I already have a bit of latency. Well, latency would be your connection with the data feed, or your connection to the exchange. As far as CPU load, no. With the reader, It's not very heavy at all. If you're starting to add in some of the conditions with the relative volume and the divergence indicator, the more you add, the slower it's going to get. But the reader indicator is not heavy at all. You can load this 20 or 30 times and not really tell much of a difference. So if I reload the chart, how fast does it load? Well, that's pretty fast. So not bad at all. All right, so let's draw that again from back here, from that higher swing low. And there we go. Okay, and now I will refresh the BloodHound template. You don't have to refresh it for new incoming bars, only for finding the new signals. So sometimes really all you have to do with BloodHound is just disconnect it and reconnect it. So just disconnect it, or sometimes you have to open it up because these areas are being defined after the fact. They're not on the chart already. They're not loaded into the chart. You can simply open up one of the solvers and then hit OK, and that will reload the value of all the bars again. So basically you're applying the indicator, which is from the toolbar, after the chart has already been loaded, right? Because it's not here in the indicators window. I've already loaded the chart and then I'm drawing all this stuff on it. So BloodHound has already read the values of all the bars when we're drawing that thing in. When I open up the solver and then click OK, it's instantiating all of that again. It's rerunning the initialize part of it or whatever, okay? So if you're not getting the signal, instead of having to refresh the chart, which isn't going to help anyhow because all the volume tools reload after the chart has loaded, then you simply open up one of the solvers and click OK, and it'll recalculate. It'll rerun the values of all those bars. Yeah, there is an extreme volume spike there, actually. See, one of the main problems with that was also that we had just opened in crude. The open in crude doesn't really scare me as much as the open in the ES. The open in the ES can really kind of reset everything sometimes, but the open in crude is not nearly as drastic as far as a shift in the amount of volume that's traded. Different days it's, you know, more drastic, but typically it's not that bad. We could look at it anyway. Let's just draw it on there and see. Look at regular volume first. We'll just load the relative or the volume for the minute charts on there and see. $20 per month.
Yeah.
Huh. For one market.
Yeah.
That's not bad.
Better than 100.
That's once a month you get a.
No, they send out one every week, I think. I was hoping it'd be every day.
Mm-hmm. There's your volume divergence, which is why I exited where I did. So you've got your buying climax churn bar. And see, this is before the open. So your volume is coming in. You know what it was, right? What was it? Happened at 7:30 today. The jobs claims, unemployment, non-farm payrolls, etc. where we get all of our fake numbers for the month. US is doing fine. Unemployment's not bad. Smoke and mirrors. So that's what this was right here at 7:30. And we sold off selling climax followed by a churn bar, and then they work it right back up in how many waves? For your last impulse to end that C wave. And then it comes on down. So, pretty interesting stuff. So now we open this up. Open any solver. Hit OK. And it reinstantiates all of those. Or here, we have to open up the actual solver that we're looking to read. There we go. And now we'll connect that to the mix, which is here. And we have everything come together on the one bar. Oops, let's see what's missing here. That's the 5 median line. That's the 5 base. Oh, I deleted the updating VWAP. All right, let's go back and fix that. Where is the 20-minute chart? There. So crude has found a low and is turning back up now. Broken the previous 2 20-minute bars highs. So I'd say that's a safe. Yeah, I wonder what that is. It's not a trend line from low to low. Huh. Funny. And then from high to high, back to this low. Not quite, but to this low. Almost. But that's what it is. From low to low gave you this low. So if we're going to go down, maybe come back to the 61.8 up here. Your point of control is right there with the 50. It's a pretty looking distribution there. Nice and smooth. So those value area highs and lows will be useful to you if we make it to either one of those soon. Anyway, let's draw it all the way back to the swing high. And then come back and find that one again. Just going to open it and OK it, and then tie everything together. All right, what else are we missing now? What did I delete? All right, there's the area from the 789 center median line. There's the area from the 789 tick auto line. There's the area from the 1-minute warning lines. There's the area from the 20-minute center median line. There's the area from the 20-minute updating VWAP. There's the 5-minute baseline, 5-minute median line. And then, oh, this bar is actually in between the two. You see that 1-minute bar? It's actually right in between the two. There's a number of different ways I could address that, but just for the sake of time, because I have an appointment I have to get to across town, I'm just going to use the look back node. We can come back and address that in a future version, future training session, but I'm just going to extend it by a couple of bars. And then we'll get the signal there. So now every bar that is within range or touching that second or third standard deviation, we're getting a signal out of. So now I connect all of those together. So we got a confluence of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, really 7, 8, 9 different areas between 4 different charts. It's all coming together on that one minute bar at exactly 750 at exactly 45.95. And that's just how all of this stuff comes together for major reversals, major swings in the market. It's kind of strange, isn't it? And then volume is confirming all of that as well. And then we get our nice little pullback for a fourth wave. It's also a tiny little A, B, C for our fourth wave. And then we get our fifth wave up. It's pretty fascinating, isn't it? I love it. And of course, RSI is incredibly overbought on the 1 minute chart. And then diverging at our volume divergence swing high right there. As price barely ticks out that previous high. Pretty cool, huh? So I will save this workspace with everything loaded on it the way that it is. I'm not sure if it will open for you correctly or not, transferring from one computer to the next. Ninja kind of has a problem with that in general, since these are not indicators but drawing objects. Drawing objects just don't really transfer well from one system to another. I don't know why. I think it has something to do with the graphics. So, all right, guys, I'll save this. Test 8 July. Yeah. And then I'll send it out with a recording later this evening. All right. So any questions? Let me just go through. Yeah, I tried that Primo cache. I haven't seen any difference. I don't know. What does it do for you, Mike? For simply the memory? Because the memory is really not that bad. Yeah, William, you downloaded the documentation from the total package members area, the zip file. There's a button there in the members area. It's called documentation. You click on that and you download the zip file of all the PDFs. One of those PDFs is going to be video list, and it'll have links to all of the different training sessions that we've done up until this point. And then I'll email out the last 2 that we've done. All right, good, Craig. Yeah, eventually you'll get it. Yeah, I'll have a good break. I'll be working nonstop, but hopefully all this stuff gets done soon enough. My main focus is that next toolbar, which I'm gonna have to send somebody over to my programmer's house with a whip. So anyway, all right, guys. Everybody have a great weekend, and I'll talk to you weekend after, not next Friday, but the Friday after that. So All right, everybody. I'll send this out as soon as it's done. All right, guys. Have a great weekend.